You've heard of the Corvette, but what about the secret GM muscle cars that were faster, louder, and way too powerful for the streets? GM built 6 of them, then made them disappear. Were they too dangerous, too expensive, or just too good? Let's dig into the story GM hoped you'd never find out.
1989, Pontiac Trans Am 20th anniversary. Absolutely. Here's a detailed and exciting deep dive into the 1989 Pontiac Trans Am 20th anniversary edition, one of the most underrated high-performance sleepers of the 1980s, and arguably one of Pontiac's finest moments. The day the Firebird beat the Corvette with a Buick heart. In 1989, Pontiac did something wild to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the Trans Am. They dropped the Buick Grand National's turbocharged V6 into a lighter, better-handling Firebird. The result? A brutal, Corvette-beating street machine that few saw coming. To honor 2 decades of the Firebird Trans Am, Pontiac engineers could have just added a decal and a fresh paint job. Instead, they went full mad scientist, took the turbocharged 3.8-liter V6 from the Buick GSX, tuned it even further, dropped it into a lightweight, aerodynamic 3rd-gen Firebird, strengthened the drivetrain to handle the power, and kept it looking like a luxury GT car. 3.8-liter turbocharged V6 LC2, modified for rear-wheel drive use, intercooled, sequential port fuel injection, turbo boost, approximately 16 psi power, official, 250 horsepower at 4,400 RPM, 340 pound-feet at 2,800 RPM. But actual dyno numbers? Closer to 300-plus horsepower and 360-plus pound-feet. 4-speed automatic, 200-4R, same as GNX. Limited slip rear axle with 3.27 ratio. 1 gear 0 to 60 miles per hour. 4.6 to 5.0 seconds quarter mile. 13.4 seconds at 101 miles per hour. Top speed, 153 miles per hour. Weight, approximately 3,500 pounds. In 1989, this made the TTA faster than a Corvette, ZR1, Ferrari 328, Porsche 944, Turbo, or Mustang GT. This was a factory Pontiac doing low 13s in the 1980s. Turbo Buick power. Last time a GM division used another's engine in a performance flagship. 1-year-only model, only made in 1989. Official Indy 500 pace car. It was the actual pace car, no modifications needed. Underrated from the factory, insurance and marketing reasons led to conservative horsepower ratings. Last of the turbo era, the GNX and this car were the turbo muscle car kings of the late 80s, built at Pass Inc., same company that helped make the GMC Cyclone and Typhoon. All were white with tan leather interior and Indy 500 graphics removable. Only 1,555 units produced, 40 of them were used at the 1989 Indy 500, including hardtops and convertibles. Only 3 were convertibles, all used by the race officials. Despite its looks, the Turbo Trans Am was a serious performance car. The 3rd-generation Firebird body was lighter and better balanced than the Grand National, giving the TTA sharper handling, better weight distribution, and even faster acceleration than the GNX, which it shared the engine with. This car was a tuxedo-wearing assassin, outrunning nearly every other production car in America in 1989 while looking like your older cousin's date night ride. For years, the TTA flew under the radar, but collectors are waking up. These are model condition value, 2025 estimated, driver quality, $35,000 to $50,000, low mile original, $60,000 to $85,000. Indy used cars, $90,000 to $120,000 plus a TTA with under 1,000 miles in perfect condition, recently auctioned for over $120,000. At a 1989 press test, GM invited journalists to test both the new Corvette and the TTA. The Pontiac shocked everyone by consistently beating the Corvette ZR1 in 0 to 60 in quarter-mile times, despite being lower rated on paper. One journalist even quipped, They built this thing in the Buick lab, but tuned it in hell. The 1989 Pontiac Turbo Trans Am is the fastest Trans Am of the 80s, one of the quickest American production cars ever up to that point, a one-year-only turbocharged unicorn. The quiet killer of the golden turbo age, Pontiac was famous for rebellious cars. This one whispered, and then sucker punched every rival on the road. Number 11, 1971 Buick GSX Stage 1. Here's an in-depth dive into the 1971 Buick GSX Stage 1, a legendary muscle car that's both a collector's dream and an underdog in the history of American performance. 1971 Buick GSX Stage 1, the muscle car that ruled the quarter mile. In 1971, Buick was one of the underappreciated giants of American muscle, and the Buick GSX Stage 1 was its crowning achievement. A car that combined luxury, performance, and style, the GSX Stage 1 was one of the fastest cars on the market, with a limited production run and a monstrous engine under the hood. The heart of the 1971 GSX Stage 1 was the 455 cubic inch V8, which was one of the most potent engines ever produced by GM. The Stage 1 package took the standard 455 and pushed it into the realm of pure muscle. Engine specs: 455 cubic inches, 7.5 liters, V8, 360 horsepower, factory rating, 510 pound-feet of torque compression ratio of 10.5 to 1, one quadrajet 4-barrel carburetor. This engine was not only capable of massive torque, but it also offered outstanding acceleration. The Stage 1 was essentially a factory-built dragster, ideal for the street and the strip. The 1971 Buick GSX Stage 1 could out-accelerate many of its competitors, especially when it came to low-end torque, where the GSX shined. Here are some performance specs that made it stand out. 0 to 60 miles per hour, 5.4 seconds quarter mile, 13.5 seconds at 104 miles per hour. Top speed, approximately 125 miles per hour. Weight, approximately 3,650 pounds. Transmission options: 4-speed manual or TH400 3-speed automatic rear axle, 3.42 or 3.64 ratio. Despite being a larger, heavier car compared to some of its competitors, the GSX Stage 1 was no slouch. It could stand toe-to-toe with the best of the era, including the Chevrolet SS 454 and Pontiac GTO Judge. The 1971 GSX Stage 1 wasn't just about power. It had style. Buick knew it had to stand out from the crowd, and they did so by adding distinctive, bold styling features. Distinctive GSX graphics and hood stripes, satin black hood, to complement the performance look. Wide body with muscular lines, chrome sport mirrors and side body moldings, dual exhaust tips, black interior with bucket seats and a console-mounted tachometer. Optional front and rear spoilers. The GSX Stage 1 had the appearance of a performance machine, but with enough comfort to be a grand tourer as well. It was sleek and mean, with a presence on the road that few cars could match. The Stage 1 package was where things got serious. While the base GS was a solid muscle car, the Stage 1 option included heavy-duty suspension components, a larger carburetor, and other tuning modifications that made the 455 V8 come alive. The Stage 1 package also included stronger engine internals for better durability, heavy-duty clutch and transmission components, power front disc brakes, F41 performance suspension, Positraction differential. This made the GSX Stage 1 a high-performance machine capable of standing up to the best performance cars of the time, including those from Ford, Chevrolet, and Plymouth. In 1971, only 124 GSX Stage 1s were produced, making it one of the rarest muscle cars of its era. This limited production adds significantly to its collector value today, with well-preserved examples fetching impressive prices at auctions. Buick never intended for the GSX Stage 1 to be a mass-market car. It was a halo vehicle, designed to show the world that Buick was just as serious about performance as any other GM brand. Because of its rarity, legendary performance, and distinctive style, The 1971 Buick GSX Stage 1 is a highly sought-after collector's car. Well-maintained examples can now command $100,000 or more at auction, depending on condition and originality. Some of the rare Stage 1 cars have even sold for upwards of $150,000. The Stage 1 package was a $725 option on top of the base GSX, which was priced at around $4,000. Buick produced only 124 Stage 1 GSXs, with only 17 painted in the signature Apollo white color, the most popular color for the model. The 455 engine in the GSX Stage 1 was one of the last high-performance engines before the U.S. government's tightening emission regulations in the 1970s. Despite its ferocious performance, the GSX Stage 1 never got the same media attention as its GM siblings like the Chevrolet SS 454 or the Pontiac GTO, which makes it a hidden gem of muscle car history. The 1971 Buick GSX Stage 1 is special because it was a brutal performance machine hidden under a luxury brand. It combined raw power with precision handling and luxury features, making it a car that could destroy on the drag strip and still be comfortable enough for a long highway cruise. Unlike the Chevrolet SS 454 or GTO Judge, the Buick GSX Stage 1 was a limited production, near-exotic performance machine. Number 10. Here's an in-depth, enthusiast-level dive into the 1969 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am Ram Air 4, an ultra-rare, pavement-ripping muscle car that helped launch a legend. The brutal, beautiful beginning of the Trans Am legacy before the screaming chicken hood decals and Burt Reynolds' black and gold icon, the 1969 Trans Am was a pure performance machine designed to dominate both the street and the SCCA Trans Am Road Racing Series. And at the top of that rarefied food chain, the Ram Air 4 variant, one of the most powerful and elusive muscle cars Pontiac ever produced. Pontiac introduced the Firebird Trans Am in 1969 as a limited edition performance model based on the Firebird 400. Despite its iconic name, the car had very little to do with the actual Trans Am racing series. GM simply paid $5 per car to the SCCA for the rights to the name. Total 1969 Trans Am production, 689 hardtops, 8 convertibles. Of these, only 55 hardtops and 1 convertible were built with the Ram Air 4 engine. That's 56 total Ram Air 4 Trans Ams, making it one of the rarest production Pontiacs ever built. The Ram Air 4 400 V8 was Pontiac's most extreme street engine at the time. Hand-assembled, aggressively cammed, and race-bred. 400 cubic inches, 6.6 liters. VI-8 factory rating. 345 horsepower at 5,500 RPM torque. 430 pound-feet at 580 RPM. 3,900 RPM 10.75 to 1 compression. Aluminum intake manifold. High-flow round port heads. Aggressive camshaft special exhaust manifolds. Functional hood scoops. Cold air induction, while the gross horsepower was listed as 345. Real-world dyno tests often showed well over 400 horsepower, especially with headers and tuning. This was Pontiac's drag strip special. Rough, raw, and brutally fast. With the right driver and slicks, the 1969 Ram Air 4 Trans Am could easily dip into the 13s on the quarter mile, which was insane for a street car in 1969. 0 to 60 miles per hour, approximately 5.3 seconds quarter mile, approximately 13.3 seconds at 105 miles per hour top speed, approximately 130 to 135 miles per hour transmission, close ratio Muncie M, 21 4-speed or TH 400 auto, rear end 3.901 or optional, 4.33 to 1 limited slip differential. It wasn't the smoothest ride in town, but few cars could keep up with it in a straight line. Race-bred engine components straight from Pontiac's performance catalog, ultra-low production numbers, first-year Trans Am with pure muscle DNA. One of the quickest GM muscle cars ever sold to the public, a factory street racer disguised as a corner-carving road car. This car was never about comfort. It was built to humiliate Mopars and Mustangs at the stoplight. The 1969 Trans Am had a clean, aggressive look, not the flashy drama of later models. Unique cameo, white paint with blue racing stripes, functional dual-scoop hood, optional rear deck spoiler, front fender air extractors, Rally 2 wheels discrete Trans Am badging. Inside, optional wood-trimmed sport wheel, full gauges, bucket seats, stripped-down performance look with minimal luxury. The Ram Air 4 engine was so aggressive, Pontiac didn't recommend it for everyday street use. It idled rough and made vacuum accessories unhappy. Only one Ram Air 4 Trans Am convertible was ever built, a true unicorn. These cars were rare even when new. Many dealers didn't even order them due to their cost and race-only nature. Pontiac engineers originally wanted to use a 303 cubic inch V8 for SCCA homologation purposes, but GM policy blocked engines under 400 cubic inches in F-bodies unless detuned. So instead, Pontiac played to its strength: raw torque and brutal acceleration. Because of their scarcity and performance, 1969 Trans Ams, especially Ram Air 4 models, are extremely valuable today. Condition estimated price, $2,025. Restored hardtop, $350,000 to $450,000 numbers. Matching Survivor, $500,000 plus. The one convertible likely, $2 million plus private sale. The 1969 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am Ram Air 4 is checkmark. The rarest of the first-gen Firebirds checkmark, the rawest and most powerful Trans Am until the turbocharged era checkmark, a collector's crown jewel checkmark. Pontiac's ultimate street brawler in a clean-cut suit. It wasn't built to cruise, it was built to hunt. Number 9, the refined muscle car that could rip your face off. In 1970, muscle cars were at their absolute peak, and the Oldsmobile 442 W30 wasn't just competitive, it was a heavyweight contender. Combining a monstrous big block V8, factory drag racing parts, and luxury-level trim, the W30 was a gentleman's street brawler that could eat tires and Chevelle for breakfast. The name 442 originally stood for 4-barrel carburetor, 4-speed manual transmission, dual exhaust. By 1970, the meaning had evolved, but the name stuck, and so did the performance. The W30 package turned the already potent 442 into an absolute torque-heavy beast. At the core of the W30 was the 455 cubic inch 7.5-liter V8, built to deliver massive low-end torque and surprising high RPM performance. 455 cubic inch Rocket VAV 8L31, rated 370 horsepower at 5,400 RPM, 500 pound-feet of torque at 3,600 RPM, high-flow cylinder heads aluminum, intake manifold, hotter camshaft 328-degree duration, functional twin-scoop fiberglass hood, cold air induction, low-restriction air cleaner, and tuned exhaust manifolds. The W30 wasn't just powerful for an Olds. It was one of the fastest cars of the entire muscle car era. Even though it was heavier than some of its rivals, the torque curve and real-world performance of the W30 made it a serious threat on the drag strip. 0 to 60 miles per hour, 5.4 seconds quarter mile, approximately 13.9 seconds at 101 miles per hour, magazine tested. Top speed, 120 plus miles per hour. Transmission, Muncie M, 21 4-speed manual or TH400 automatic rear axle ratios, 3.42, 3.91 or 4.33 optional. Despite GM's 400 CID limit for intermediate cars, that rule was dropped in 1970, so Olds went all in with displacement and got real mean, real fast. The W30 option wasn't just about the engine. It came with serious hardware upgrades that made this car street and strip ready: red plastic inner fenders, weight saving, and unique aluminum intake manifold, high lift camshaft and stiffer valve springs, better ignition and fuel delivery, rally suspension with stiffer springs, sway bars, and boxed lower control arms, dual snorkel fiberglass hood with cold air ducts. This was factory muscle weaponry, not just showy options. The 1970 442 W30 had aggressive looks to match its performance. Oldsmobile was GM's mature brand, so you got muscle wrapped in class. Optional W25 fiberglass, twin scoop hood, bold 442 badging, and red inner fenders visible through the wheel wells. Striking stripes and graphics, optional. SSII rally wheels, hood pins, rear spoiler, sport mirrors, inside bucket seats, wood grain dash, full gauges, console with Hurst shifter. This was one of the few muscle cars that felt premium, even while tearing up asphalt. Only around 3,100 W30 hardtops were produced in 1970, and even fewer remain with original drivetrain and documentation. W30 cars equipped with the TH400 automatic featured a code OW transmission specifically tuned for W30 shift points. The red plastic inner fenders are a dead giveaway of a real W30, though they've been faked on clones. It's often mistaken as just a luxury GTO, but the W30's torque numbers beat the Chevelle SS 454 and Hemi cars in many real-world races. Condition estimated price restored W30. Hardtop $120,000 to $180,000. Numbers matching convertible W30 $200,000 plus Survivor auction restored $150,000 to $250,000. The 1970 W30 is finally getting the recognition it deserves, especially among collectors who appreciate performance without the overexposed image of other GM muscle. At a 1970 NHRA event, several Oldsmobile 442 W30s ran in superstock class, beating out Chevelles and Roadrunners with ease. Despite Oldsmobile's grandpa brand image, the W30 shocked spectators with mid-13-second quarter-mile times, mostly bone stock. This isn't your father's Oldsmobile. This is your father's worst nightmare. The 1970 Oldsmobile 442 W30 is one of the most powerful muscle cars of 1970. The torque king of GM, a rare blend of refinement and rage, often overlooked, but never outgunned. It looked polite, it sounded confident, but once you floored it, it was pure violence in a tuxedo. Number 8. Here's an in-depth breakdown of the 1963 Chevrolet Impala. It's 11427, a factory-built, drag-strip-dominating sleeper that became one of the rarest and most legendary full-size muscle machines Chevy ever unleashed. The full-size freak built for drag strip war. In the early 1960s, automakers were locked in a brutal arms race, not on the streets, but on the quarter-mile drag strips across America. Chevrolet's weapon of choice in 1963 wasn't a Camaro. It didn't exist yet. It was a massive Impala packed with lightweight tricks and a monster under the hood. The Z11-427. The Z11 was a factory, lightweight drag racing package available on the 1963 Impala SS. It was never advertised to the public. You had to know someone at Chevrolet or be deep in the racing scene to get your hands on one. Only 57 Z11 Impalas were ever built, and fewer than a dozen are known to survive today. Despite being branded as a 427, the Z11 used a heavily modified version of Chevrolet's famous 409 V8. This wasn't just a bored-out 409. It was a race-prepped beast with a special block, heads, and top end designed for high RPM domination. 427 cubic inches, 7.0 liters, factory-rated 430 horsepower at 6,400 RPM. Underrated, real output closer to 500 horsepower. Torque, approximately 470 pound-feet, 13.5 to 1 compression ratio. Dual 4-barrel Carter. AFB carburetors on a high-rise aluminum intake. Special Z11 aluminum heads and valve train. Forged internals and solid lifter camshaft. Cast iron headers tuned for drag racing. This engine was part of the Mystery Motor program, a bridge between the W-Series 409 engines and what would become the 1965-3 96/427 Big Block Mark IV. The Z11 Impala was intentionally built for NHRA superstock racing, not daily driving. It was the biggest, baddest sleeper you could buy, if you were lucky enough to get one. 0 to 60 miles per hour, approximately 4.3 seconds quarter mile, 11.8 to 12.3 seconds at approximately 118 to 122 miles per hour. Top speed, approximately 130 plus miles per hour. Transmission, Borg-Warner T10 4-speed rear axle ratio, 4.11 to 1 or deeper. Not bad for a full-size sedan weighing over 3,300 pounds. To make the massive Impala as light and mean as possible, the Z11 package included aluminum hood, front fenders, bumper, brackets, lightweight front and rear seats, radio delete, sound deadening delete, no heater or insulation, plexiglass windows on some racers. These weight-saving changes shaved over 300 pounds from the standard Impala. Despite all its fury, the Z11 looked almost identical to a standard 1963 Impala Supersport. That made it the ultimate sleeper. Subtle 409 badging. Some had no external badges at all. Plain steel wheels with dog dish hubcaps. No hood scoop, stripes, or external clues to its 11-second potential. It was a drag strip assassin in disguise. The Z11 was not street legal in most states due to its lack of heater and emissions equipment. It was specifically built to compete against Mopar Max wedge cars in NHRA Superstock. Chevy pulled out of factory-backed racing in early 1963, making the Z11 one of the last purpose-built race cars from that golden pre-ban era. Drivers like Dino Don Nicholson and Hayden Proffitt made the Z11 famous at drag strips coast to coast. Condition estimated value restored matching number Z, 350,000 to 600,000 plus. Original survivor, 700,000 plus. Documented race car history, potentially 1 million plus. Only a handful of real Z11 cars still exist. Many were blown up, parted out, or disappeared after their racing days ended. In 1963, Dino Don Nicholson campaigned a Z11 Impala and routinely ran mid-11s at sanctioned events. In a full-size Chevrolet, the car was so dominant that it helped trigger NHRA rule changes and weight brake adjustments to level the playing field. Chevy's response, "We're done." The Z11 was the final chapter in GM's official muscle drag support and one of its loudest. The 1963 Impala Z11427 is the rarest factory muscle car Chevrolet ever built. A transition engine between the W Series 409 and Big Block 427A full-size missile disguised as a family car. Still feared and respected at vintage drag strips. They built 57 of them, and every single one was meant to win. Number 7, 1973, Chevrolet Baldwin Motion Phase 3, Camaro. Here's an in-depth look at the 1973 Chevrolet Baldwin Motion Phase 3. Camaro, one of the wildest and most hardcore street machines of the muscle car era, built not by the factory but by a fearless dealer-tuner partnership that defied the rules. Warranty? Nah, guaranteed to run 11 seconds. When muscle cars were starting to fade after government regulations, insurance crackdowns, and fuel economy concerns. Baldwin Motion didn't back down. They turned up the insanity. The Phase 3 Camaro wasn't just fast. It was an outlaw's dream, a street-legal drag strip monster, custom-built to order, and completely guaranteed to run the quarter mile in 11 seconds or less, or your money back. Baldwin Chevrolet, in Baldwin, New York, partnered with Motion Performance, run by Joel Rosen, a no-nonsense street racer and engineer. From 1967 to the early 70s, they built custom supercars you could order right from the showroom floor. Each car was street legal, yet equipped with drag strip level performance parts, and every Phase 3 car came with that famous performance guarantee. Think of it as an early form of dealer-sanctioned tuning, decades before Callaway, Hennessy, or Lingenfelter. By 1973, the Camaro Z/28 was starting to get tamed by emissions and insurance restrictions. Baldwin Motion ignored all of that and offered brutal big blocks that made stock Z28s look like toys. 454 cubic inch LS 6V8, or stroked up to 482 plus cubic inches, 500 to 600 plus horsepower. Depending on configuration, dyno tuned to customer order, solid lifter cam, high-rise intake, Holley 4-barrel, headers built turbo 400 or Muncie M22, 4-speed 4.1 or 4.56 rear gears, traction bars, and line locks. Zero concern for emissions. Total focus on brutal acceleration. These cars were not mass-produced muscle. They were custom-ordered drag machines, individually built and tested by Motion Performance. 0-60 miles per hour, under 4.5 seconds, a 1/4 mile. Guaranteed low 11 seconds, or your money back. Top speed, 130 to 140 plus miles per hour. Street legal. Technically, yes. Realistically, barely. Joel Rosen took each Phase 3 car to the track or the dyno before delivery. If it didn't hit the performance target, he didn't deliver it. A 1973 Baldwin Motion Camaro looked like it belonged in a comic book. These weren't subtle sleepers. They were rolling declarations of war. Key visuals included custom Motion Performance stripe and paint schemes, large L88 style hood scoop or Pro Stock style hoods, deep dish Kragar, SS wheels and fat rear tires, side exhaust or chrome dump pipes, rear spoilers, traction bars sticking out, jacked up rear stance, you'd see one and know instantly. This wasn't stock. Built to order. Customers chose colors, engine specs, gears, exhaust, and even roll cages if needed. Tested and tuned, dyno and or strip tested to meet specific ET goals. Performance contract. A real signed document guaranteeing quarter-mile times. Legal street monsters, all Phase 3 cars had VINs, titles, and could be registered like any other car. Baldwin Motion also sold parts and tuning services for DIY racers, but a full Phase 3 Camaro was their flagship product. By late 1973, the EPA and DOT started cracking down. Joel Rosen was forced to sign an agreement ending the sale of turnkey Phase 3 cars for street use. That marked the end of Baldwin Motion's golden era. Only a handful of 1973 Phase 3 Camaros were ever built before operations shut down. Most known survivors are in museums or private collections. Condition estimated value original. Phase the third, Camaro 300,000 to 500,000 plus. Verified matching numbers. Survivor 600,000 plus Baldwin Motion replica. Correct parts 100,000 to 150,000. They're ultra rare, impossible to fake properly, and some of the most sought-after tuner muscle cars ever built. Joel Rosen's nickname was Mr. Motion, and he once drag tested a customer's Camaro at Long Island's West Hampton drag strip before delivery. Some Phase 3 Camaros featured 482 plus cubic inch stroked engines long before stroker kits were common. You could order a Motion Camaro with line lock, roll bar, 5-point harnesses, and slicks, ready for street or strip. Motion's marketing tagline was, "We don't build fantasy cars. We build cars that do exactly what we say they do." The 1973 Baldwin Motion Phase 3 Camaro is the last gasp of true quarter-mile factory killers. A hand-built, dyno-proven supercar from the streets. The ultimate expression of 1970s tuner madness. Guaranteed 11-second street car, long before Hellcats or GTRs. When Detroit gave up, Baldwin Motion doubled down.